Looting and lawlessness spread across London and beyond as riot police struggle to control the violence. Properties and vehicles are burning out of control tonight in several areas of the capital. And clashes between roaming gangs and the police, which began in daylight, continue this evening.
I think this is about sheer criminality. That is what we have seen on the streets. The violence we've seen, the looting we've seen, the thuggery we've seen. This is sheer criminality.
This is the ITV News at 10 with Mark Austin and Nina Hossain.
The Prime Minister has cut short his holiday and is flying back to Britain. And London's most senior police officer is warning the public to stay off the streets in affected areas. There's also trouble tonight in Birmingham. Pressure grows on the police as the partner of the Tottenham man shot dead by officers speaks out.
This is out of control. It's out of control. Innocent people are getting hurt.
Also on the programme, nightmare on Wall Street. Stock markets plummet as President Obama fails to reassure investors.
And crackdown in Syria. Now the country's Arab neighbours say the killing must stop.
Good evening. Violence and looting escalated alarmingly across London this evening. Fires are burning out of control in several areas. There's been widespread looting and running skirmishes with riot police. The Home Secretary has described the violence as sheer criminality. And tonight the Prime Minister is returning home from holiday to deal with the growing chaos. These are live pictures from Croydon in South London tonight, where a number of properties are ablaze, buildings destroyed by fire, and where there have been serious clashes with police. In the first of our reports, our UK editor Keir Simmons reports on a third night of the London riots.
Despite the condemnation and calls for calm, there are fires burning across London tonight. South of the city in Croydon and in Lewisham, and east in Hackney, where so brazen are the rioters that even before night fell, they attacked police cars and looted shops. Attempts to regain control led to further confrontations with police. Missiles and flares were thrown. A lorry was raided for makeshift ammunition to use against riot officers.
This is going to carry on for days, isn't it?
Hundreds have been arrested, many injured. The Home Secretary has cut short her holiday, returning to London, just as the disturbances were beginning again.
I think this is about sheer criminality. That is what we have seen on the streets. The violence we've seen, the looting we've seen, the thuggery we've seen. This is sheer criminality. And let's make no bones about it. And that's why I say that these people will be brought to justice. They will be made to face the consequences of their actions. And I call on all members of local communities to work with the police constructively to help the police to bring these criminals to justice.
The Prime Minister has announced he too will return to London tonight, as police did manage to contain one disturbance in north-east London, but seemed unable to prevent the violence. For a third night, rioters are on the streets of London. They are attacking the shop just up there and grabbing anything they can. They've set light to cars and have been throwing missiles at the police, who have backed away down the street, but continue to fight running battles with the rioters.
I do urge now that parents start contacting their children and asking where their children are. There are far too many spectators who are getting in the way of the police operations to tackle criminal thuggery and burglary. And I'm imploring that people within those communities actually start clearing the streets to enable my police officers to deal with the criminality that is occurring in front of them.
There are further reports of clashes and looting in Clapham and Peckham in South London and in Birmingham. The government will hold an emergency Cobra meeting tomorrow morning. But before then, the police and emergency services face a very difficult night. Keir Simmons, ITV News.
Damon Green joins us live from Hackney in north-east London. How serious is it there tonight, Damon?
Well, it's quiet, but the sound of rotor blades overhead tells you this is a standoff rather than a truce. There were rumours all day that this was where the trouble was going to happen in Hackney, that after the trouble in Tottenham, the trouble in Brixton in South London the last 2 days, this is where it was going to happen. The injured police officer near the town hall was the catalyst for the trouble, where it suddenly became a pitched battle. Hundreds of youths attacking police officers with bottles, with rocks and with fireworks. And when the police managed to disperse them, they promptly moved to a council estate and took over a whole street. It was at that point that repeated charges from riot police only eventually managed to flush them out. As I say, it's quiet now, but the large numbers of youth still present on the street, on every street corner, evidently with nowhere to go, tells you this is going to be a long night.
All right, Damon Green, thank you.
The partner of the Tottenham man whose death sparked the first riots say the protests are out of control. Simone Wilson, the mother of Mark Duggan's 3 children, says there's a lot of anger about the way his death was dealt with by the police. There's also been wider criticism of the Metropolitan Police's response to the violence sweeping the capital. Our crime correspondent John Clement on the police reaction.
Simone Wilson is still in shock, devastated by the death of her partner and horrified at the violence it has unleashed. Mark Duggan was shot dead by police in Tottenham on Thursday, but days later there remain more rumours than facts. For this, Simone has no doubt who she blames.
The police. Definitely the police. My children don't know. Mark's children don't know that he's gone. We can't tell them yet because they're going to be asking questions. And I don't have the answers to it.
The claim Mr. Duggan, seen here receiving CPR, was shot after firing at police first is almost certainly untrue. ITV News understands the gun found at the scene is a reactivated blank-firing pistol, incapable of firing the type of bullet which was found lodged in an officer's radio. 48 hours after the shooting, friends held a vigil outside Tottenham police station. Gangs then moved in and began burning and looting their own communities. Much of the anger directed at police follows an alleged lack of leadership in the days after Mark Duggan died. The local borough commander went on holiday and her colleagues appeared unsure how to deal with grieving relatives. And of course, Scotland Yard itself remains leaderless after the resignation of Commissioner Sir Paul Stevenson over phone hacking.
I think the level of escalation in violence that happened on Saturday night were not expected. We needed to then bring in officers from across the capital. That does take time. When we did have the resources there, we needed to protect the fire crews.
Though her grief is personal, Simone shares the public's outrage at what has followed Mark's death.
This is out of control. It's out of control. Innocent people are getting hurt. Children have got no homes.
John Clements reporting there. Our UK editor Keir Simmons joins us now. So Keir, real questions over police tactics over the last few days.
There are, and I think the police once again this year face a real crisis. But this time, as John was saying, they lost their commissioner a few weeks ago. They now have an acting commissioner. And whether or not a lack of leadership is to blame, there are those questions about their tactics. They say that they're damned if they do, damned if they don't. But you have to ask on Saturday night why they didn't realise that there was going to be disturbances and why they didn't intervene. The problem is the psychology of it. Once that happens and there are disturbances like that, then other people see them and they get the idea that it's possible to loot and to cause this kind of violence, and that, if you like, they'll get away with it. And the police now have to tackle that belief. They are trying to by insisting they are arresting a lot of people and they are clamping down and putting more officers on the streets, but so far it doesn't appear to be working.
All right, Keir.